can't see, I've got my lady talking at the front here on my computer, so apologies if the microphone picks that up. I'm going to show some videos later on, and I'll plug in the audio, but until then, I won't subject you to my screen reading software. So is it on this side, the screen? Yeah? I have a habit of looking over my shoulder, and if I look the wrong way, then I look like a bit of an idiot. So yeah, this is Archie, my guide dog. People are always coming up to me saying, "You're gorgeous," and they're always talking about the dog. So I've left him at home, that's why. So yeah, but this is Archie. Sorry I couldn't bring him today. Slide 2. So I'm going to start off with a couple of slides, and then it's videos all the way. So it's talking about smart cities, and at the heart of smart connected cities is obviously the smartphone. And the smartphone has been such a massive revolution for everyone. No one more than disabled people, someone like myself, benefits every single day from smartphones, smartwatches, various other devices. And I wanted to tell you, though, start off with a very important message, which is that accessibility, or inclusive design, as we like to call it, is not just for disabled people, particularly not in this mobile-centric age. So here we've got a picture of somebody. I don't think they've got a vision impairment. They just, have reading glasses, for example. But everybody, I'm sure, in this room can relate to the fact that on a bright, sunny day with a small, shiny sheet of glass, if things aren't accessible, if they're not done in an inclusive way, if you have poor color contrast, if you have a small, mean default font size on a web page or in an app, if the text isn't a good, font choice for people to be able to easily read, then we're all in that category. We're all temporarily or situationally disabled or impaired. So accessibility is no longer for disabled people. It's for every single person. So here we've got somebody, he's got a cup of coffee in one hand and he's got his phone in the other. He's juggling his phone one-handed. He's temporarily motor or dexterity impaired, just like somebody with Parkinson's or a tremor or an age-related dexterity problem. You all do this. You all juggle your phones. You're using them one-handed all the time. You're pushing a pram. You're holding a bag of shopping, that sort of thing. So there's no distinction now. And if you get to grips with accessibility and you build it into everything that you do, just the way you think about what you do every single day, you're going to be making your apps, your content, your functionality more fit for purpose in this mobile-first world. He's also got a cup of coffee here, so maybe he's on his coffee break. Maybe he's time constrained. He's got 90 seconds to complete a particular transaction that he's doing on his phone. And you need extreme UX, extreme usability, when you're very time constrained like this. And that extreme UX will allow you to complete it in that time successfully. If you don't manage to do that, you might not come back. That particular app or service might have lost your custom. For someone with a learning difficulty or a learning disability or with a vision impairment or dyslexia, they need that extreme usability to be able to successfully complete that transaction full stop. Regardless of how much time they have, that's exactly the same scenario. They need that extreme UX. Slide 4. I wanted to get a picture of somebody with huge sausage fingers, but I couldn't find one. So just imagine that this person's got like big mutant fingers. So we don't all have jumbo-sized phones, but some people have jumbo-sized fingers. So just pretend that this person's got big sausage fingers. And it's, again, difficult for him to tap on small areas. If you don't design for people with dexterity difficulties, because of their impairment, you're also going to be disadvantaging somebody who has big mutant fingers. Slide 5. And finally, I wanted to show this slide. Why have I got a picture of a blank screen in a car? Well, to all intents and purposes, we heard it earlier with the Uber chap. When you've got a phone in a car, you can't interact with it in any sort of meaningful way. So just imagine, for the purposes of how you're going to serve up content in a car, think of a blank screen. Think of what we call a headless UI. There's no UI, basically. Think of the Amazon Echo. I absolutely love my Amazon Echo. I can just talk to it and it'll talk back to me. Will your content, will your functionality be compatible with this headless UI? And part of accessibility is to separate content and functionality from presentation so that you can resize it, you can change the colors and the fonts. It can deal with different screen sizes because you can easily layer on different presentation for different screen sizes, et cetera, et cetera. And when you've separated functionality and content from presentation, you can also serve it up in really radical UIs like the Amazon Echo, which is a headless UI. It's got no screen whatsoever. And so will your apps, your content be fit for purpose across all these wide range of platforms going forward? I'm just going to close this. So I'm going to plug in the audio now. Hopefully it's not going to be a crack. So I use my smartphone every day, and when you've got these sensors like a camera, a GPS, compass, etc. in there, then when some of your own senses don't work, like, I can't see, then that can be incredibly useful. I use the camera every single day, and we'll look at that in a moment. Here's a camera that's using a mainstream app. If anyone's got Google Translate on their phone, you've already got this.
VLC Media Player.
So if you click on the camera app, I'll just turn the volume down a bit. If you click on the app on your, if you open up Google Translate and you click on the camera, this is what you'll get. Now just think in a smart city, there will be lots of sensors, there'll be lots of interactions that we'll look at a little bit later on, but sometimes the smartness will be in your phone. So something like this, which is benefiting from machine learning to not only do the optical character recognition, i.e. recognize the text, but then also do the language translation to turn it into the language of your choice. So something like this also benefits from crowdsourced data, and we'll look at that a little bit later on. Capture, you all know those evil, distorted images. Google actually snips up pieces of parchment, pieces of old documents that they want to have digitized and serves those up as captures. And because there are so many people solving the capture at once, several people, if they type in the right word, then they let them accept the capture, and also they say, okay, that's the translation for that particular piece of text. And that helps the machine learning, and that's why Google's OCR technology is so good, as we can see here. But I've said that this is actually powered by magic, and as I'm sure you can tell, the magical element to this is that it tries to retain the look and feel of the original document, and it gives you that sort of magical transformation. And for someone with a vision impairment like myself, who you have to fiddle with, dictionaries and stuff like that, translation, pocketbooks, etc., or if you've got dyslexia, then something like this makes it that much more easy to use. I think they've turned the volume down. Have you turned the volume down?
3B My Eyes dash helping the...
Thank you. I've got the lady plugged in now, so if you could put up with her. So I'm going to show you now an absolutely breathtaking but incredibly simple application of crowdsourcing. So when you've got a pair of eyes like mine that don't work, having an app like this, which basically just outsources your vision to some other nice volunteers, is incredibly empowering. I'll just fire it up.
VLC.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to
First available helper.
That's where you come in.
establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app,
Print image.
and we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in.
I'm just going to pause it there. I'm going to be really annoying as we go along and not show you all of the videos, but I will use the hashtag CSW Europe 2016 afterwards to tweet links to all of these and a few more bonus ones as well, because I'd just like to get through a little bit more. So download that app now, and you guys can help other people, by being their eyes. It's available on iPhones here in Belgium, not unfortunately on the Google Play Store as yet. In the UK, for example, it's available on both, whichever country you're from. Just have a look, search for Be My Eyes in the App Store.
CSW Europe 2 for seeing AI-Microsoft.
So staying with the camera for a second, the smarts that we saw before that Google Translate uses, Microsoft have been working on that, and other sites, Facebook, now automatically tag all of your photographs if you turn a screen reader on. On your phone, for example, if you triple-click the home button to bring up VoiceOver and then tap on any image in your Facebook feed in the app, you'll get, may contains snow, skateboard, shopping, that sort of thing. And that sort of technology is being mainstreamed very significantly so that you can then search through content that was otherwise visual and sort of unindexable. And it's now being used, in this case, to help somebody with a vision impairment. And you could imagine the help that as you're traveling around a city, to be able to recognize objects, read street signs and things like that. So we'll just watch the beginning of this presentation.
Microsoft.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives. And one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response, and you think, is everyone listening really well, or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I get that all the time.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can...
If I was the engineer of that software, I'd get it to underestimate people's ages so that you could compliment them.
CSW.
That's incredibly important and really useful for someone with a vision impairment, someone with Asperger's, for example, or autism, who can't easily recognize people's emotions. So you're combining that with those pivot head glasses. It could be with Google Glass. It could be with a number of other sort of wearable devices. And I think AR, augmented reality, is definitely the way of the future with regard to smart cities. Because yes, we'll be able to put a lot of smarts into the connected devices that are littering these cities and towns and making them more connected and more smart. But if the technology is with you all of the time, for example, in a heads-up display, and you're able to recognize objects to that level of accuracy and to lock them down within the field of view, then you could have, big helpful green arrows pointing directly at the tube station where you need to turn, or directly around the corner you need to go. And the arrow actually, the head of the arrow goes around the corner and the head of it disappears with the building line that it's showing you in your line of view. So augmented reality is going to play an incredibly important part in connected cities for everyone, but in particular for people with a vision impairment, it's going to be disproportionately more beneficial for them.
5-way Finder-open-source indoor navigation.
I talked about connecting up cities and making them smarter for people. The GPS obviously is incredibly important. It helps me all the time to get to where I'm trying to go. But when you can't see, having that last 5 meters of accuracy to take you directly to the door, or internally within buildings to be able to find your way around is incredibly useful. We all know about beacons. We've probably had presentations on them already. But there was no standardized way of doing it. You'd have to have a particular app. You'd have to have it open. This Wayfinder is trying to open source that and create a standard which everybody would be able to access. And more than that, they're building into the standard guidelines about how it can be helped or used by people with, for example, a vision impairment, so that it will provide timely and appropriate descriptions as they navigate around. Let's watch a little burst of this.
DLC Media Player.
Welcome to Euston Station. For London Underground trains, walk forward and take the escalator down to the ticket hall.
I think the main issue for me about travelling is having to ask for assistance. I would rather try to attempt the journey myself.
Our mission is to empower vision-impaired people to independently navigate around the world. It's a joint venture between us two and the RLSB, and we're really proud to have Google Org and Transport for London behind us to deliver this impact to the vision-impaired community.
Cross the wide gate at your 10 o'clock. After the gate, walk forward.
So we were approached a while ago by a company called Us2, who are a design company, and the RLSB, with about an idea around how we can get messages through using apps to people to help them get around stations more easily. And that's exactly the kind of thing we want to do, because we pride ourselves on really championing accessibility for all our customers.
I'll just pause it there. So hopefully that open standard will gain traction and people will be able to tie into that. And we'll see a much wider adoption of beacons. And you won't have to have a specific app open for a specific store or underground station or whatever it might be. And
CSW.
hopefully, perhaps in the future, it will get an adoption at the operating system level if that standard becomes sufficiently sort of well recognized.
6 Tesla Autopilot dash full self.
Now, I could spend a whole afternoon just talking about autonomous vehicles. Had a drive in a Tesla myself once recently where somebody summoned it out of a parking space. They pressed this button on their key fob, and I was sitting in the driver's seat. I had my hands on the wheel, just holding it very gently, and my feet off the pedals, and it drove me to this chap across the car park, sort of 30 meters away, and then he pressed the other button and it parked me again. I don't know if it parked me in the same place or not, but that was my first taste. But I'm really excited and looking forward to a fully autonomous future. I'm going to show a quick video clip. I'll just fire it up and then talk over it.
Tesla Autopilot full self.
Got some good music, this one. I'm going to mute the music though, sorry. So what we can see here is the view out of the camera of the car cabin, and on the right you've got the different sort of views and the things that are being recognized by the software. It's called Autopilot with Tesla. Obviously Google have been championing this. Tesla is a particularly good example because they've actually now got tens of thousands of Tesla owners around the world. They've racked up 100 million miles with the Autopilot switched on, which is mostly highway, but they've actually been using it in inner city situations like this as well. And obviously, the driver needs to keep their hands on the wheel, not like in this scenario, and their eyes on the road, because the autopilot is something that you have to click through 10 different disclaimers before you're allowed to use it, which says you will be paying attention at all times. There has been one fatality, obviously, you all know about that, where the white van on the white background of the sky fooled the optical sensors, the cameras, and that was a really unfortunate mistake. The chap was actually on his phone at the time and reading comic books on his phone. So he didn't have his eyes on the road, but they've made adaptations to how the algorithms and the sensors work. And the importance of this, a couple of weeks ago, Elon Musk, obviously the founder and the CEO of Tesla, had announced that all future models will now come with all the hardware, all the sensors, all the cameras, all the lasers, etc., built in as standard. And the firmware update to make them fully autonomous as and when that's signed off, particular legislation in that country or city, that would just be an over-the-air firmware update, and then those vehicles are good to go. So we're now seeing it in mainstream vehicles. The sensors, the lasers, etc., don't cost much at all to add in, and we're definitely going to see these added in just because people can, the technology is mature, the insurance industry is incredibly for this because they like the extra level of security, that they do drive better than us poor humans. And the audit trail, because of the data, 750 gigabytes of data is recorded every minute as it's driving around. And we heard the statistics earlier from Uber. In the UK, actually, it's 30% of inner city traffic is just circling, looking for a parking space. And as they said before, 4% of the time your car is being used, the rest of the time it's just redundant. So in the smarter cities of the future, we're definitely going to be seeing a mass adoption of this. It will be built into every family car. It may not be switched on until the legislation is in place, but certainly it's going to be augmenting. It's going to be automatically braking for you. It's going to be, saving your lives in many situations. I'll just close
CSW
that.
Europe. 7 Pepsi's Unbelievable Bus Shelter.
Now, in smarter cities of the future, it's not just going to be about connecting to IoT devices, etc. There will be a lot more information around you all the time. We're never going to get away from advertising. I'm just going to show a quick clip now of a real bus stop. This is a real bus stop in London that's sponsored by Pepsi and serving up very frivolous images to scare people who are waiting for the bus. And I'll explain afterwards why on earth I'm showing you this.
Unbelievable Bus Shelter.
I do. Check. That's the intro. See that? Yeah. I just do what I do. See me? I just do what I do. Yo, check. Let me flip this script. I feel privileged for all who can witness this. I am close to divine. Know the moment is mine. The moment of sign. Sprint. To all the squares that ask around, we getting it. My skills pay me. I'm trying to get a million, baby, with an adopted flow that God gave me. Me now. Tell whoever furnace that they spot is temporary till I think I got that one. Tell Miss I'm on my wealth tip. So when we cash out soon, I'm just investing.
I'm telling you, this is how it works, man. There's a little camera right here.
So why did I show you that? Well, your projects may or may not lend themselves to being done in an inclusive way. Some of the campaigns, projects that you're going to be involved in, products, you're going to find it tough to think about, well, how are we going to make these inclusive? How are we going to build in accessibility? Now, things are going to become more and more off the central ground of where you're used to, apps, websites, etc. We saw it with the Amazon Echo earlier. We can see it with augmented reality and other platforms like this. You need to think about accessibility or inclusive design at every single stage and build it in. What would that look like? How would you layer on accessibility to make sure that everybody gets the sort of information that you're going to be conveying, regardless of what the platform is? I'm going to finish off with 1 minute, a quick challenge to get you guys to do a little bit of work. So if you've got pen and paper, fantastic. If you've got a smartphone, please just open it up now and open up an email or a note, somewhere where you can type. And I'm going to give you an audio capture challenge.
LC Media Player.
What we've got here is the capture, as I mentioned right at the beginning. Sometimes these are really distorted, sometimes they're not so bad, but they're obviously distorted enough so that optical character recognition, machines, robots can't translate them. And the audio version, which is what I have to rely on, is similarly distorted, so it gets around the voice recognition software. I want you to come into my world for half a minute, and you're going to listen to the audio version, which is what I have to rely on. This comes at the end of filling out a form process. Maybe it's screen 5 of 5. You spent 20 minutes filling out all the other forms. You need to get around this to be able to submit the form, to register with the service, whatever it might be, buy the product. So, are you ready? Yeah? I'd like you to listen really, really hard. It's going to repeat it twice. I want you to write down exactly what you hear, and then afterwards we're going to compare it with the people sitting next to you. Okay, here we go.
9, 3, 7, once again. 9, 3,
I'm sure there were some meows in there. Okay, so 10 seconds, just compare it with your neighbor. Go.
CSW.
Now, as you know, I'm blind, but with all confidence, I can say, put your hands up if you got it the same as your neighbor, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. So, nobody, right? Okay, now that's kind of funny on one level, but it's also heartbreaking on another level. Now, obviously captures, you don't encounter them every day, but I encounter them perhaps once a week. Don't think of this as just being capture. Think of this as inaccessibility in general. I've given you a tiny insight into my world or the world of all the customers that you're not catering for by thinking about things in an inclusive way. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for coming.